Hi. In this video, we're going to be talking about the value proposition of OpenCRVS. Why is it important and valuable to all the different stakeholders in our ecosystem? So first of all, there's not only one stakeholder that OpenCRVS provides value to. The three that get the most value out of OpenCRVS, we believe, are governments, obviously, who are implementing digital civil registration systems, system integrators, who are implementing systems on behalf of governments, and development partners, obviously, who have a goal to ensure that no one is left behind. But I don't want to forget also the rest of the OpenCRVS community, academia with whom we can create standards and conduct research, developers who want to contribute individually and collectively, registrars from around the world, think tanks who are trying to change the way people think about civil registration, its value, and how digitisation can transform digital public infrastructure, subject matter experts in a number of different fields, and donors. But predominantly, we're going to focus on today the value to our three predominant stakeholders: governments, system integrators, and development partners. And what are they all looking for? Well, everyone is looking for a high quality digital civil registration system. We need to make sure it's cost effective, to make sure that there's enough budget, but also that it's sustainable and lasts a long time. And also, obviously, for service providers to ensure that they can actually drive their commercial businesses. We want to make sure that it's easy to implement, and we want to make sure that we can unlock that value that only civil registration can. So why are countries, governments choosing OpenCRVS? First of all, the most obvious perhaps is that there's no license fees as it's an open source product. So there is no consistent fee that countries have to spend on an ongoing basis. The other benefit of being an open source product that countries like is the fact that there are not links to and ties to specific vendors. And this is one of the major challenges that was identified and informed the creation of OpenCRVS. Secondly, it's quickly configurable for the country context. So for some countries, after they've conducted a proof of concept, they may decide that that version of the system that has been created in about 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the context, is actually fit for purpose for phase one of their digital transformation program. So very quickly they can see whether the system is fit for purpose, but also can start their digital transformation journey rather than waiting for a product that has everything they need. And instead, they can be building in parallel. The third thing that we hear a lot from governments at the moment is that they want a homegrown solution. And that's absolutely right. We want local countries and their local teams to be able to manage and maintain this solution in the long term. And with OpenCRVS, local teams can be trained to configure, deploy, and maintain the system. And all at the same time as not making another investment in something that already exists to a really high quality standard. That's cost effective and great decision making. Another point is that countries, OpenCRVS, the OpenCRVS version that a country implements, it's theirs. It's their system, it's their data, and it's hosted wherever they want, either on-premise or in the cloud. And that sense of ownership is incredibly important. And it's really important to communicate that ownership to countries. OpenCRVS doesn't own their code. The system integrator implementing doesn't own it. It can be stored in a GitHub repository that they own, that they access, and the data is hosted on their infrastructure. That really matters. They're also joining a global community. And what's really nice about that is that countries can actually learn from one another. So rather than just being told by development partners or companies with whom they engage, they can actually speak to their peers to understand their experiences, what it's cost in different countries, and the different models that people have taken. That global community is only at the beginning and it's growing. So the value of which it will provide is also growing with it. Countries also find it really important in this era of digital public infrastructure that we have designed and built OpenCRVS based on standards, its ability to integrate using standards that exist. That's with ID systems, health, and social protection systems. But any other system that either wants to notify be a notifier to the civil registration system, or a consumer of the data to make sure that that data can be used by different departments and also even the private sector if the case is appropriate. Another question that countries often ask us, and why OpenCRVS is great value, is that it has a very high level of performance, even in large populations. So the last performance test that was conducted was done to the size of a country, the size of Nigeria. Massive country, huge population, and the performance of the system was consistent. So we can cater for scale. So while it's not just going to work in a little field test or a pilot, it's going to be performant at the national scale when you get real numbers. Obviously, civil registration data is incredibly important. There's a lot of personally identifiable information that needs to be protected. Not only because that's the right thing to do, but because we also need to build trust with citizens. OpenCRVS is built to the highest security standards and it's regularly penetration tested. We also encourage all countries to conduct a penetration test in country so that not only the software but the infrastructure is also tested. This provides a sense of security and safety to the country implementing the system. And finally, and it's no small thing, countries will get free upgrades on an ongoing basis, as well as technical support and training. That's what the OpenCRVS organisation is here for, and that's the benefit of a number of different countries implementing OpenCRVS. So those free upgrades, knowing that they're not going to be alone, there's always going to be a level of support for them, is really important for countries. What's the value proposition for system integrators? Well, for many of you doing this course, I hope that you can answer that yourself. But what we found is that the fact that there is an existing system, the core OpenCRVS product, exists with a rich set of features and functionality, the common features and functionality that most countries around the world require, is centrally maintained and supported. It means that there's a lower cost to serve for system integrators supporting countries. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. They can use what already exists and, of course, benefit from the ongoing product development. The second point is that the product is highly configurable, which means that it can respond to a number of different requirements in RFPs around the world. So if an organisation is supporting a country, perhaps in West Africa, this product is also configurable for country contexts and requirements in East Africa, in Asia, in the Pacific, and in Latin America. And that's because we've designed it in such a way to do just that. But also it's rich with the requirements from all these countries because we've worked in depth with them. And as new requirements come to the fore, those can be incorporated into the core product and future implementations can benefit from them as well. Increasingly, we are noticing characteristics in RFPs that countries are advertising for, and that is for the use of a digital public good or an open source solution for civil registration and vital statistics. OpenCRVS is currently the only digital public good for CRVS that also reaches the digital public goods standard as defined by the Digital Public Goods Alliance. This is a hallmark and a stamp of approval by the authority who is creating the standards for digital public goods. And so it's the only system that can actually cross this threshold currently. As an organisation, OpenCRVS is also here to support system integrators. And that access to business development materials and a community of CRVS experts to build the knowledge and capacity of system integrators is available. You're not an organisation who's alone in any of this, and our prerogative is to ensure that system integrators can provide the best service. And that means making sure that these organisations have that right level of knowledge and capacity. And finally, as I mentioned, just in that first point, organisations are benefiting from ongoing product development and research that the OpenCRVS organisation is conducting on an ongoing basis. So when there are contracts with countries for a longer period of time, those upgrades can be managed perhaps by the system integrator, if not by the country, and you're going to benefit from these upgrades without necessarily having to invest in additional design development that the country has requested. What's the value for development partners? Well, the obvious one is that development partners' strategic objectives, obviously in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, is to leave no one behind. And that's really, as per the OpenCRVS mission, to recognise, protect, and provide for every person on the planet from birth. And so different development partners have different strategic objectives, but we recognise that a lot of them can see the increasing value of that an efficient and effective digital civil registration system can provide. The most obvious sustainable development goal that civil registration contributes to is SDG 16.9. That's everyone's right to a legal identity, including birth registration. But there are numerous other sustainable development goals and key indicators that countries report on that civil registration systems, when implemented effectively, can help contribute to the outcomes. So obviously development partners can actually measure some of this positive impact in line with their objectives, which is obviously appealing to them. And the other thing is for organisations who support civil registration strengthening activities around the world, there's this one solution that can fit in a number of different countries, but also obviously respond to those unique country needs. The fact that also the system has been designed with users based on the context and in a rights-based way, thinking about how we can protect rights and ask the right questions and protect information is really, really important. So development partners can see the value of not investing in a number of different solutions and reinventing the wheel, but rather supporting countries to empower themselves, be trained, build capacity, and have ownership in the long term. In addition, it complies with United Nations standards, of which there are a number of different documents, including the guidance on effective civil registration systems from the United Nations Statistical Division. And this is important to build confidence with countries and for countries to feel confident in the advice that these development partners might provide them. Finally, development partners can see the value, obviously, of joining this global CRVS community, a community of countries, of users who have a voice, who can tell us what they need for a system to respond to those needs, respond to the realities in which they live, and where a community of organisations, individuals, and all together contributing towards the same mission to ensure that no one is left behind.